January 27th, 2026. Just going to do answer a few questions that have been asked. Question number one: why are the pigeons so calm, and how do you get them like that? I spend a lot of time with the pigeons, right from being in the nest, you know, all the way through as young birds. When I'm feeding them, I'm touching them. I'm messing with them all the time. I'm not grabbing them and picking them up all the time, but when they're in the nest, I'll run my hands over them. I'll play with them, get them fighting with you a bit, even right from whenever they start feathering, and I start messing with the young ones and sort of getting them tame. I don't have them mega tame. Some of these pigeons in here, I haven't picked up since probably the end of last season. I'm not handling them every day. I'm not picking them up. They just accept me as like part of the loft. If you can get them like that, so they're looking to you for everything that they need. Following you around, stuff like that. They're not as tame as the sprinters. A lot of these are distance pigeons as well. Some of them are, some of the sprinters, but when the sprinters were in here, they were on your shoulders, they were on your head. It's sort of bred in the sprinters. You don't have to put a lot of time into them, the sprinters, but distance pigeons, it's sort of not bred into them. They're not quite as tame as the sprinters were. But like I say, if you spend a lot of time with them, don't manhandle them. It's very rare I catch any of them. I just have to look at them to know that they're sort of all right. It comes with experience. The next question is, how do you get them in that condition? I think you just basically, to get them in good condition, you just got to look after them. Keep them clean. I think it helps not having a lot of pigeons in the loft. It's easier to get them conditioned, I think, when you've not so many pigeons. There's plenty of room, plenty of space. I think every little bit plays its part. It's, I feed them on, because I've only a few pigeons, they get fed, the best, well, what I think's the best food for them. I'm not feeding them on cheap mixes and things like that. They're all well branded mixes that I've always fed all the time I've flown pigeons. I've never fed like stuff from farms. A lot of farms, I've been to farms where they in grain store, there's rats running all over, pissing all over it. It's not for me. A lot of people feed farm food and do quite well with it, but like I say, it's not for me. The next question is, somebody's asked, do you think they need supplements? Well, I've raced greyhounds over the years, I've had quite a lot to do with horses over the years. Every athlete needs supplements. You'll not find an athlete or a racehorse anywhere that they don't give supplements to. I think a lot of the supplements I give are for recovery. I don't sort of give things that they're going to make them fly 300 yards a minute faster every week. A lot of the stuff I give is for recovery at the beginning of the week and when they've come back from the race. I don't tend to give stuff towards the end of the week. Thursday and Fridays, they always have clean water, they always have done. Next question is, as you're going to concentrate on distance racing, would you fly natural? I've always flown widowwood at the distance, right up to 850 odd mile. I've never flown natural. I did try it about 6 or 7 years ago. I lasted about probably 2 months. It's not for me. I think I know when they're on natural and there's nest cycles, they're laying and stuff like that. I just think you can't get them in the same condition as what you can when you're racing widowwood or a roundabout type system. I just think you can't get them in the same condition. It's like I've had these paired up now for about 4 days, and I can see, looking at them now, even though they look all right, I can see looking at them now that they're not in the same condition as what they were when I originally paired them up. So no, I wouldn't. The answer to that question is no, I wouldn't fly natural. Even when you know, a couple of days before a big race and you decide to put the hen in with the cock, you can see the cock does lose a bit of condition, even if it's just overnight. The cock does lose a bit of condition, so it's not for me. I won't fly natural at the distance though. Next question: starting up, would you buy stock or young birds to race? Me personally, I'd buy stock. If I was starting out, 2 seconds, I'll just move these out of here. Get in. Me personally, like I said, I'd buy stock. I wouldn't. The reason I buy stock, you start learning right from day one. With buying stock, you're learning how to breed them, how to look after them, how to feed them. Don't go mad buying 10 pairs of stock. Just buy a few pairs, work round them. Start off, buy the best you can afford. Sometimes what you can afford isn't always the best, but you've got to start somewhere. It's a bit hard to start off with, but like I say, if you buy a few stock pigeons and just take your time, breed around a few good pigeons that you can afford off people that you can sort of trust, and if they say they'll breed you a late bred for stock off the 2 of the best races and things like that, anything like that, that's always a good move forward. If I were to start off by bringing in just young birds, which I did when I started out, I just started off with young birds, I didn't have any stock originally. I wouldn't go getting them from every Tom, Dick and Harry. I would try and go to 1 or 2 people, and trust me, when you mix all them together, even from a couple of people, it can still be a bit tough with ailments and diseases. But I certainly won't be going to a load of different people and fetching them all in, because it just turn into a nightmare for you. It's as simple as that with that lot. So your 2 choices: either build your own like sort of family of pigeons by buying in a few pair of stock, or buy a team of young birds in. Start off slow. Going back to the condition bit, don't overcrowd them. Like I said, there's 12 boxes in here. This is probably about 9 foot by 6 foot, this loft. There's 12 boxes and there's only 8 pigeons in them. I don't like to overcrowd them. I think it does affect a lot of things, health and condition and lots of other things. Right, next question. Why do you not like feeding peas and beans? Oh. Right, the reason I don't like feeding peas and beans is because they're hard to digest. I have fed beans. I feed the stock birds. I've fed the stock birds peas and beans when they're rearing young ones, but that's the only time I'd ever use them. I wouldn't feed my racers peas and beans. There's peas in the mixture that they get, but there's not an abundance of them. Like, I would never have an opera of beans in for the distance or out like that. I just think the beans are hard to digest. When you feed anything like that, they tend to drink more water. Another tip while we're on this subject, when I'm racing, I have a 1 litre drinker, so I know every day how much water them pigeons have drunk. If you feed stuff like heavy mixes, peas and beans and stuff like that, they drink a lot more water. It puts sort of strain on the kidneys, with protein and stuff like that. It's just not for me. I think the modern day mixes, well, I'm saying modern day, I've fed widowwood mixes for 30 odd years, but the modern day mixes, people have spent thousands and hundreds of thousands getting them mixes so they're perfect for what you need. And I think like a standard widowwood mix, there's everything you need. All I do is that, like I've said on the feeding video, I just had, you know, give them a few peanuts every day, you know, just for the fats, because the Widowwood mix I use, which is the Superstar Plus, it's fairly low in fats. It's only about 5 or 6% fats, so I use that. But as far as feeding peas and beans, no, I wouldn't. I don't like feeding a lot of peas and beans. There's an old saying, an old fancier told me years ago, brown slows them down. So if you've got a lot of brown in your mix, that's one thing he always told me, don't feed a lot of brown, it'll slow them down. Next question, why do you only have a small team? Would you have more if you could? No, I probably wouldn't. I've always had a small team. The most pigeons I've ever raced is 14 cocks, and this year, next year I'll be racing 16, so that'll be the most I've ever raced. But there'll be 16 pigeons in a 16 foot by 6 loft, which is, you know, plenty of airspace for them. I could put 12 in each side if I wanted to. I could have 24, but everything revolves around the young bird loft. So the young bird loft, I only like to keep, you know, I don't know, 17, 18, 20 young uns. There's 20 odd perches in there. I could fit a lot more perches in if I wanted to. I see pictures of young bird lofts with perches everywhere, you know, but the roof. I could fit a lot more in, but I'd just like to keep them so they're easy to manage. You know, they're healthy. I think the less you keep in a section, the healthier they are. And that's about it. So no, I probably won't have more pigeons. While I've lived here, I've always flown 8 Widowwood cocks. It's hard when you're trying to compete with just 8 pigeons against people sending 50s and 60s and stuff like that. But end of the day, it's just an hobby to me. You know what I mean? It's, you know, I'd rather send 1 or 2 over the channel and know that I'm going to get them than sort of pick a handful of darts up, send 30 or 40 and just pray that something rocks up. I'd rather do it how I do it and just prepare it, and, you know, a couple of individual pigeons, you know, for the job that they've got, and do it that way rather than, like I said, picking a handful of darts up and throwing them with a board and hope something sticks. Thanks for watching. If you've any more questions, if you message me or leave it in the comments on this video, I'll try and answer them best I can. I'm not brilliant at this with videoing and getting myself mixed up and stuff like that, but if you could subscribe to the channel and all, I hope it's been helpful. Thanks for watching. Bye.